And welcome back. If you tuned into Newsmax Prime on Friday, you caught a sneak peek of a special conversation we just had with 5 trusted members of our Newsmax audience. All of them are Donald Trump supporters, but they don't necessarily agree with everything Trump does or says. Now, a couple of days ago, we talked about the impact of the Orlando terror attack, and we focused specifically on the Democrats' new push for gun control and Donald Trump's response. Now we want to talk about gun control, also a huge issue that has come up in the wake of the Orlando terror attack. Tom, you're a retired police detective. President Obama has been talking, and a lot of Democrats too, guys, have been talking about reinstituting the assault weapons ban. Here's the president talking about that.
We have to make it harder for people who want to kill Americans to get their hands on weapons of war that let them kill dozens of innocents.
Weapons of war. Tom, a retired police detective, is that an accurate description of the gun used in this attack?
Well, I'm also a certified law enforcement firearms instructor. That is not a weapon of war. It's a single action, single fire weapon. If you were to issue that gun to a military person over in the Middle East right now, they would get slaughtered. Okay, it's not a weapon of war and it's not an assault weapon.
Steve, what do you think about the president and the Democrats' immediate push for gun control in the wake of the attack?
I think that it's foolish. France has the stiffest gun control in the world. And just this past week, a policeman was knifed to death, and his wife was also knifed. What do? Ban knives now?
For some folks, it's not just about the gun itself. It's about the freedom of the Second Amendment and the Bill of Rights. What say you?
Second Amendment, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that we have a right to defend ourselves. Guns are not the killers. It's the people that are misusing them that are the killers. If it were the guns, I don't know why then after the Boston Marathon we didn't ban pressure cookers. I think criminals that want guns to commit crimes with them are going to get them whether legally or not. So even if you had a lot of gun control, the people that want to use them illegally are going to get them illegally and still use them.
But Democrats say this is, about protecting American citizens, that whether the gun was used in an attack in Charleston, South Carolina, or it was used by a terrorist in Orlando, these guns have been proven to hurt people. Debbie?
Well, let's look at Chicago, gun-free zone. Every day there's reports the people cannot protect themselves, and I believe the rate is 60 people a day being killed in Chicago. So that was more than Orlando. And those citizens that are getting killed do not have guns to protect themselves.
Now, another aspect of this, Democrats are pushing for a no-fly, no-buy list. That is, if you are in a terror watch list, a no-fly list, you shouldn't be able to buy a firearm. We should point out, of course, that Omar Mateen passed a background check. He was a security officer. He had a concealed weapons permit, so he could have bought this gun under the current laws. But here's Hillary Clinton talking about the need to ban these weapons from people on the no-fly list.
We do need to stop terrorists from getting their hands on the tools to carry out attacks so easily, especially assault weapons, military-style assault weapons that have no place on our streets. Surely we can agree. If the FBI is watching you for suspected terrorist links, you should not be able to buy a gun with no questions asked.
All right, well, let's just leave aside the irony of Hillary Clinton talking about the FBI investigating anything or anyone. But it makes sense, right? If you're suspected of terrorism, you should not be able to buy a weapon, right, Carrie?
I totally agree. That's one thing I do agree with them. I believe that it makes a lot of sense.
Now, I'm a little surprised because I never thought we could find common ground with you and Hillary Clinton.
Well, I happen to believe it, and I do believe that, that makes a lot of sense. But why, when the FBI had this guy on their radar, why didn't they keep track of him? How come the ball was dropped?
That's a great question.
That's where I am very concerned. They actually had him in there, interviewed him and everything, and here he is a couple years later, terrible destruction up there in Orlando.
One thing that Donald Trump has talked about, Steve, is discussing this issue, which normally a Republican would be difficult for a Republican presidential candidate to do because the NRA is very much against this. They want to make sure that gun owners have due process, which is also a reasonable expectation. But this willingness by Donald Trump to bring this up for discussion, that has to help him, don't you think?
I think it does help him. I think it shows that he is concerned. I agree with Carrie that we do have to look at the issue of people on the watch list being able to purchase weapons. But I also agree that the ball was dropped. So I think what Donald Trump has done here is said, I may be in favor of guns and to the right on this issue, but I know that in reality we have to protect the American people.
There's another part of this that Donald Trump talked about too, and I want to play that clip because this is from the stump, and if you're a student of Donald Trump on the stump, you know he says things up there to get the crowd fired up, and I want to get your take on what he said here. Let's take a listen.
If some of those great people that were in that club that night had guns strapped to their waist or strapped to their ankle, and if the bullets were going in the other direction aimed at this guy who was just open target practice, you would have had a situation, folks, which would have been always horrible, but nothing like the carnage that we all as a people suffered this weekend. Nothing.
Loud music, dark, would they really have been safer?
You know, somebody that probably had proper training. There was even a military captain that was among the people that were killed.
Somebody like that would be a different story.
Would be a different story. But remember, bars in the state of Florida are gun-free zones.
Correct.
Even with a CCW permit, you can't walk into a bar with a gun unless you're an off-duty police officer or something. So
we can agree that guns and alcohol not a good idea.
Not a good idea. No,
Right.
I think maybe the badge in the gun may be heavier if you're drinking.
And the reason I bring this up because the partisan nature of the electorate today, it's so difficult for pro-Second Amendment people and pro-gun control people to find any common ground at all. But it seems like with all the noise that's happened, there is a little bit of space. And if the both sides could just find that area, I think we could make some progress because we can all agree, right, that Omar Mateen should not have had a gun immediately before that attack. If we could have all taken the guns away from him at that point on Saturday, we would have done so.
But you know, if that would have been a biker bar in Texas, there wouldn't have been 49 people killed. Right. Everybody's armed in Texas, including the bars.
This is true, and you bring up a good point. There was a mass shootout at a biker bar in Texas.
Yeah, they shot each other.
Right.
Yeah, that was different.
Right, it was a little different.
Yeah, a little different.
Right, that might make some people nervous as well. Democrats recently filibustered to push this issue. For the senator involved, Chris Murphy, Connecticut is his home state. The Sandy Hook shooting took place there. You can understand, Debbie, why this is such a passionate issue for him.
Yes, but if we do proper background checks, like Kerry said, no one disputes that. No one disputes that at all. Also, this gentleman was on the radar of the FBI not once, twice, 3 times. So a ball was definitely dropped there. We definitely have to also look in the Sandy Hook case, mental illness. But you can't blame the guns. It's the people behind the gun shooting. There are issues out there that need to be handled, absolutely. I don't think anybody disputes that. But you can't blame the guns. They have to stop with blaming the guns. That was a mental health issue. One is a terrorist attack. And that could have been avoided if the FBI kept them on the radar.
All right, raise your hand if you're pro-Second Amendment here in this crowd. Now also, raise your hand if you want to see Congress take some tangible steps to prevent guys like Omar Mateen from getting weapons. Tammy, you think everything's fine as is?
I don't think that everything's fine as it is, but I wonder if it would matter, because I still hold to the fact that criminals that want to get their hands on a gun will get their hands on a gun. So having tighter, stricter gun control, and maybe Mateen wouldn't have been able to get a gun legally, but if he was hell-bent set on doing what he wanted to do, he would find a gun somewhere.
There you go. Well, in reference to that soundbite we played from Donald Trump in that segment, we recorded that last week. Trump tweeted this out earlier today, suggesting that patrons having guns in Orlando may have made the difference. To correct that a little bit, Donald Trump tweeted this, quote, "When I said that if within the Orlando club you had some people with guns, I was obviously talking about additional guards or employees," but no doubt the debate will rage on. The focus, folks, is on the human behavior and preventing Omar Mateen not just from getting guns, but getting him out of the mix of population before something like this can happen. The problem is focusing on the weapon themselves and not the humans who are holding them. Thanks so much for joining us here tonight. It was a pleasure to be with you. We'll see you right back here tomorrow night for another edition of Newsmax Prime. You can always reach us on social media, newsmaxtv.com/comments. Find us on Twitter, newsmax.com @NewsmaxPrime. We hope you can join us tomorrow night as well. It's been a pleasure being with you and sitting in for J.D. Hayworth. Have a pleasant evening.